Alright, welcome to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to give a breakdown of the top holders on JASMY. Now, not only am I going to talk about the news, my concerns with the existing supply that is held by large entities, I did also want to run through the news that JASMY Foundation has put out, and I want to talk about how the CFO has reacted to this. So, and then I'm going to finish talking off with the tokenomics and tie that into the top addresses. We're going to start on the top 500, and then we're going to work our way down to the smaller addresses. And in this, I will be addressing some concerns that I have, and also the news kind of alleviates some of the concerns, but in my opinion, concerns are definitely still valid on this one. So let's jump right into the video on the JASMY supply, JASMY holders, JASMY tokenomics. Let's jump in. So starting off with the news. This is somewhat old news. If you are in the JASMY community, you probably have heard of this before, but it has been confirmed that JASMY is now announcing a metaverse fund. So they're planning on expanding into a metaverse fund, and to do this, they have been officially licensed to buy back 300 million JASMY tokens. Well, the metaverse fund has been licensed, and they're using the buybacks from JASMY to fund it. Now, from what I can tell, most of these buys have been through Binance, which they're already in cahoots with, but nonetheless, that would be good news in itself that they are buying back the supply. And also, there's been a few tweets like this where you can see that, you know, JASMY has repurchased 94 million JASMY tokens. I'm not going to go through every single tweet that JASMY Foundation did saying on this date we bought this, on this day we bought that. I just feel like it will take up too much time. It won't really be relevant. But nonetheless, you can see they've pretty much filled this fund already. As far as I'm concerned, I think they've got 3 buyers currently, so they're pretty much hovering around that 300 million mark. Now, if we come over to what Hara_JASMY CFO has said about these tweets on JASMY, because he doesn't seem too happy with what's been going on here, and there have been talks about market manipulation in the next tweet down. So from what he said, the foundation here, and he's referring to this account here, the JASMY Foundation. Now, just so you know, this is not a confirmed Twitter, and this will be kind of talked about in this tweet here. You can see the foundation here is an external organization that was initiated and formed by our owner. So it's external to JASMY, but it is formed by the owner. Its existence is a fact. Our policies are shared, and we we partially collaborate with it. I don't know why that was so hard to say. However, they operate completely independently when it comes to setting KPIs and executing investments. So it looks like they've jumped the gun and done this by themselves. And this is the next tweet down that I really wanted to talk about. And I do believe when he's talking about this, he's talking about the fact that the announcement of the Metaverse Fund and how JASMY is buying back its own tokens. You can see that he said, "We, the management team, conduct our business activities with the objective of building up a world-class business. We are also making steady progress in preparing to showcase our services. We, the management team, are not doing anything that constitutes market manipulation." So in my opinion, this was in response to them buying back their own tokens and announcing it. And in my opinion, this is kind of a little bit shady. Like, I don't see why you would announce buying back your stock or buying back your crypto. It seems like market manipulation. Like, if I was the owner of Binance, which I'm obviously not, and I own BNB, I mean, I feel like an easy way to pump BNB would be like, oh, Binance is going to buy back BNB, we're going to buy. I mean, it just makes, you know, retail traders feel like they want to get back in and buy. So it does seem like market manipulation in my opinion. Probably not in the eyes of the law. Like, I don't think this goes against any law, but nonetheless, it seems a little bit shaky in my opinion, and it seems like the CFO of JASMY agrees with me in this. So we've talked about the news, we've talked about JASMY's new fund, we've talked about why they're buying back their tokens and buying back their supply. Now let's talk about the supply, and then we will jump into the concentrated holders of JASMY, which is very worrying in my opinion. Now, to start off with, circulating supply and max supply. I feel like a lot of people who are invested in JASMY are maybe new retail traders, and they don't fully understand the depth of market cap and fully diluted market cap. If you are one of those people, don't worry, I will be explaining this for you right now. So as you can see, the circulating supply of JASMY is just under 10%. It's 4.75 billion JASMY, and the total supply is 50 billion. So that is red flag number one, if we're not including the tweets. This is very worrying for the long-term perspective of JASMY, in my opinion, and this is only somewhat alleviated by the fact that the JASMY Foundation is buying back the supply. I feel like that's really the only good thing you can say about this. And you could say, you know, JASMY is going to use these tokens to expand the business, it's going to make these metaverse funds, it's going to do yada 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 yada, but at which point it's working on retail's money. Like when you inflate the supply, like if you inflate the supply by 50 billion, and then for example the JASMY developer, which holds 5% of the active funds, I mean, the easiest way for them to make money and expand their business would just be keep on increasing the supply, which is almost how fiat currency works. I mean, it's a tax on people. Every time you increase the supply of something, all you're doing is diluting the value, and you're diluting the price of the JASMY that, you know, existing retail holders hold. So if for example, if you're a retail trader watching this video, if you hold $1,000 worth of JASMY, and JASMY goes and dumps this extra 45 billion supply on your head, you're not going to be able to go and sell that on an exchange for $1,000. Like, you'd be lucky if you got, you know, $100 for it at that point, because they're going to be diluting your purchasing power and using that to expand their business. So I do find that somewhat kind of, you know, I don't want to say shady, because, you know, a lot of cryptos do it, but I really don't like the fact that there's only 10% of the supply out. That's just my opinion. You can let me know what you think of that down below. Now, market cap and fully diluted market cap, I feel like a lot of people don't understand the difference between these. Market cap is simply the existing price times the existing supply. Very simple. So what is the fully diluted market cap? Now, very simply, this would be, if we look at the current price right now, you can see it's 1.7 cent. Now, if JASMY was to release its total supply, and hypothetically speaking, no one buys or sells JASMY until JASMY releases its total supply. Let's say JASMY dumps its complete supply overnight, which I'm not saying they'll do. I'm not saying I think they'll do. I'm just giving you a hypothetical. Let's say JASMY dumps its entire 50 billion supply on everyone's heads by tomorrow morning. Well, for JASMY to be then priced at 1.7 cent, the market cap would need to move to 887 million. So you can see the market cap is roughly 10 times smaller than the fully diluted market cap. And as you can see, the circulating supply is 10%. What's 10 times that? 10 times that is the total supply. The market cap times 10 is the fully diluted market cap, because the market cap is going to grow, or not the market cap, the supply is going to grow another 10x. So that is a real big warning sign, in my opinion. And when we come over to the bigger warning signs, I mean, I will break it down why, in my opinion, I think these are warning signs in a minute. But let's start off with the top 500, top 250, top 100, and then I'll explain, once we come down to the lower top 10, top 25, why I believe this to be so worrying. And this was that red flag and caution that I had on the start of my video. So just so you know, I do cover JASMY. I'm not a JASMY hater. I'm not trying to shill you out of your bags. I do cover this almost on a daily basis on my channel, but when I do see, you know, things like this, I really do need to talk about them, because I wouldn't be doing anyone any favors if I just decided not to talk about this. So let's jump in, because this video is probably almost 10 minutes anyway. If we look at the top 500 holders on JASMY, so this means these are 500 single entities which hold the majority of the supply on JASMY. Now, if we look at the top 500 holders, you can see they collectively own 97.5% of JASMY. Now, in my opinion, that is an outrageous number. That is way too high. That is so concentrated. If you think about it, I mean, 500 might sound like a lot of people, but, you know, imagine if you put 500 Bitcoin holders in one room and then said, you know, you guys own 97% of the supply. I mean, that is heavily centralized. It's heavily focused on these wallets. Now, if we come down to the top 250, this is where it gets worse. I mean, you would have wanted to see a drop at this point, but no, you know, the top 250 wallets own 95% of the supply. Let's come down. Top 100 wallets. What do the top 100 wallets hold? Once again, we're getting worse. While the number's not going up, we're talking about fewer and fewer people owning the majority of the supply on Jasmy, which is not good. I mean, this is basically all whales from what I can tell. Now, top 100 holders own 86% of the supply. This is, you know, once again, another red flag. Top 50 holders own 71% of the supply. Top 25 holders. Now, this is almost as bad as it gets, I think. I mean, imagine that. I mean, imagine it with something like Bitcoin, where, you know, Bitcoin is so scarce, it's so rare, you can't inflate it. But imagine if 25 people held, you know, 53% of the supply. That would be, you know, no one would want to invest in it. And I'm giving Jasmy the benefit of the doubt because it's fairly new. It does seem to be regulated. It is the first approved crypto in Japan, but nonetheless, you know, this is a major red flag for the long term on Jasmy. Like I said, only 10% of the supply is out. It is fully circulated within, you know, basically 50 wallets. I mean, 50 wallets own pretty much all the supply. And if this does keep on inflating, then, you know, your funds are basically going to be like keeping water in a bucket with a hole in it. It's not too good in my opinion. So top 25 holders. Now I'll give you a breakdown of these individual wallets. But let's come down to the top 10. Once again, 38% of the supply held by the top 10 holders. And this is probably where I should give you a breakdown on what these addresses are and, you know, who these entities are that are holding most of the supply. So I think for this I'm going to come over to the top 50, and there's a reason for that I will get into when we come down to the 1%. Now, let's jump right into it. Now, to start with, you can see Binance. Now, if this wasn't obvious already, Binance is obviously a large holder of Jasmy, and I believe Binance has a separate address, I believe Binance 6, where they do also hold a decent amount of the supply. If I can try find it. Oh, here we go. So you can see Binance 14 owns, you know, just underneath 1% of the supply. And there should have been a Binance 6, unless they've moved it since the last time. So yeah, they must have moved it, but either way, we've got two Binance addresses. If we come down to top 50, you can see Jasmy Developer, also a large holder of Jasmy. Obviously, they're holding about 5% of the supply, and while I don't necessarily have too much of a problem of Jasmy Developer holding 5% of the total supply, I do have a problem with the tokenomics, considering, you know, if you want to hold 5 to 10% of your supply, fair enough, but use that supply to increase your project's longevity, to make it a better project, to build new things, like like the new project that they announced over on Twitter, their Metaverse fund, rather than, you know, holding your own supply and then having, you know, another 10x to dump on people. So that is quite worrying in my opinion. And then below this, you can see there's a few addresses that have no names, but we've also got Bittrex, Mexi, we've got KuCoin, and that is pretty much it for the top holders. We've got Gate.io also holding about 0.6% of the supply. Now, what happens when we come down to 1%? Because you'll notice here, very, very quantifiably, we have literally exactly 500 million, 500 million, 500 million, and we've currently got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 addresses that currently hold exactly 500 million. Now, what is interesting about this? Now, I personally looked on this, you know, about a couple of weeks ago or so. Maybe it was coming on for 4 weeks now. I shared this information with some of you in the comments a couple of days ago. And when I checked literally yesterday, we had 22 addresses with more than 1%. Now let me just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So yeah, we've currently only got 20. This is very interesting. Yesterday we had 22. And what I was about to say is 4 weeks ago, we had 27 of these 1% entities, obviously collectively holding 27% of the supply. Now, you can see some of them are gradually going down. Like we've got 400 million now. We've got some with 494. But I find it very, very kind of not suspicious is the word, but a little bit perplexing how we have these addresses with exactly 300 million, how we've got a bunch of addresses with exactly 500 million. Now, I believe I've heard this before on the JASMY Foundation, that these 1% addresses are owned by the JASMY Foundation and 1% of the supply was given to each developer. That is not confirmed, unfortunately. I've literally looked everywhere. You know, I've read every piece of information I can find online. I've gone through the CFO's Twitter, I've gone through JASMY Foundation Twitter, I've gone through Google, Reddit, everything. I cannot for the life of me find concrete proof that these addresses belong to JASMY developers. So that is something, once again, you need to take in with a grain of salt. But what is my general worry about this? Now, I do think JASMY is going to be a good short-term trade, don't get me wrong, but they really need to sort out these top holders. I mean, it is not good to have 86% of the supply owned by the top 100 holders, and if we come down to as far as the top 500, you can see that these 500 wallets collectively own 97.5% of the current JASMY coin supply, not including for the total supply that has not been minted yet. So I just thought I'd share my concerns, the news, the tokenomics for JASMY, as I do cover it quite a lot. So I thought this would be, you know, something new that we can cover. Maybe I'll look at it for a few other projects where we look into the tokenomics, the fundamentals, we look at the percentage supply held by different holders. But yeah, nonetheless, I found this interesting. I hope this was interesting for you. And yeah, that's really all I've got. I will leave a link in the comments to the Etherscan chart, where if you want, you can check all the top holders for JASMY and what they collectively hold out of the supply. So that is all I've got for you today. Once again, I hope this was useful. If it was, please like and subscribe. That's all I've got for you today. Not financial advice. Cowboy out. Peace.